Hey guys, people here. Today we got to look at the new campaign reward ship Wichita, Tier 7 USN Heavy Cruiser. I got Einstein on the screen here. You can really use all three commanders, even if you don't have Einstein, either Kincaid or Scott. Now you're going to want to differentiate your builds between the light cruisers and the heavy cruisers. So if you only have the two main ones, pick Kincaid for one branch and Scott for the other, and set them up accordingly. Anyway, before we get rolling here, I do want to make an announcement. We did hit 10,000 subscribers today, which I never in a million years thought would ever happen on this channel. Thank you, everyone, for the support of the channel. That is absolutely outstanding. What that means, though, is we do have the giveaways that were planned are going to be triggered now. So in the upcoming couple days, stay tuned on the Discord, stay tuned on Twitter. Links to those are in the description below. That'll kind of kick off the giveaways. Friday, I'm planning on doing a video. Hopefully I can get it up. And we'll do some more giveaways on Friday. I'm not going to title it giveaway or anything, so you'll just have to kind of remember. And then the main event, Saturday, we're going to have a big stream. And we're going to have three, actually, premium ships to give away. One Tier 5 and two Tier 6s during that. So there's going to be some pretty good prizes for all the giveaways. Hopefully you guys can get involved. If you can't get involved with the stream, that'll be 10:30 Central Time, my standard time. At least try and get involved with the other ones, because there are some ships for those giveaways and other kind of ancillary prizes as well. Anyway, I picked this game in the Wichita. This is the new map, Northern Waters, I believe. Kind of just to highlight both the highlights, or what the ship's capable of, and kind of how I take, or my take on island hopping here. Now, you can see there I kind of poked up to that little outcrop there. Not that familiar with this map yet, so I'm not 100% sure which positions are viable or where the ships tend to pop up. But you can look for those little offshoots or those little things, you know, low-level beaches that are sticking out. I think the game designers kind of designed them to basically put your ship straight into them and then kind of fire your front guns. So cruiser plays, you know, you got to know basically how high you can shoot over islands. USN cruisers tend to shoot fairly high, so that's one of their advantages. And you can also look for those low areas that pretty much most ships can shoot over and use those accordingly. Now here on the map, we can see I'm the only one playing C. It's a little risky. Usually you want to play pretty conservative and probably adopt a kiting mentality if you're going to hold down a side outnumbered. But here I'm being a little aggressive. We do have an Indianapolis pushing up here, and we're going to teach him the meaning of the word. Let's go with boned. I think that's pretty apt here. And this AP, it's a little bit different than the Baltimore AP. It's not super heavy AP, which the Baltimore is. The Baltimore kind of is the ultimate penetration machine. Oh, yeah. But Wichita, the shells remind me more of the New Orleans than the Baltimore. Still very strong, still very capable AP, but the penetration, especially at really long range, seems to drop off. Especially against, you know, Baltimore, you can potentially hit those waterline citadels, even on fairly heavily armored battleships. This one, I'm not seeing that similar result. So you gotta be very active. You gotta be paying attention on your shell results. Switch the shells if they're not having an impact. And luckily, the reload's very quick on this, so you can get away with that. Now, I should point out my mod on Discord. JT asked them about the shell characteristics on the ship. They came back and said they're kind of unique. They do have a bit of a short fuse aspect to them. They don't feel quite as short fuse as the British, but maybe they're the exact same in terms of fuse. What that means is once they encounter enough armor to arm, then they explode quicker than your standard arming fuse on most shells. So that's going to explode more internally in terms of these cruisers, and that's why we're seeing more citadels, more regular penetrations, less over penetrations on those. We're not going to see as many waterline citadels against battleships. I can't think of if I've seen many, maybe a few at close range, but none jump to mind. I'll point out also the radar on this, same as the Baltimore. We got 9-kilometer range on it, and there's a 30-second duration to this radar. We don't see any destroyer play in this game, but keep that in mind. It's a key aspect of the ship, so very useful tool. And as a radar cruiser, of course, the Wichita should have an elevated target priority when you see them on the opposing team. Anyway, getting into this game more, we're pushing back the cruisers over here. This was a 3 cruiser flank that they had. We've killed one of them. We've pushed back the other 2. Now we're just basically trying to advance island to island. Use the old-fashioned island hopping tactic, and keep pushing them back. Since they've disengaged here, we're just going to take a second to pull back. Make sure we secure this cap, because you can see our team just flip B, and if we can capture this, then we have the requisite 2 out of the 3 caps that we need to kind of ensure access to a victory on points. You don't want to, if you have the opportunity, you basically want to control 2/3 of the map. Both the center and one of the flanks is basically how domination mode works. So we do take a little bit of time here. Good concealment on here, especially compared to the Baltimore. We got 10.2 compared to 10.8 on this build, so pretty dang stealthy. Getting more into the stats itself, range identical, 203s. Again, they're different shells than the Baltimore, but same guns. Reload faster, 8.4 on mine compared to 10. Same turret traverse, same HE damage, fire chance. AP damage about just shy of 1,100 more on the Baltimore. So again, that's a more effective shell overall. Speed on this one, though, we do have over a knot faster, 35.2 compared to 34.1 on my builds. 680 turn radius, which is outstanding, tied for best at the tier on my builds. And rudder shift, I got it down to 5.4. Now my Einstein, I do have basically like a Makawa or a Kincaid type perk on slot 2, enhances the speed, enhances the rudder shift, so that helps with that. But very nimble ship overall, and I like the mobility on this. People will kind of always roll their eyes sometimes when I talk about enhancing the cruiser's mobility and stuff, the so-called defensive perks. They seem to want to run their 2% damage increase over survivability, but being able to dodge those shots when you see them incoming is massively important with cruisers. One mistake with cruisers, your game can end at any moment, so giving yourself every opportunity, every advantage when it comes to that department, always important and always worth consideration in my opinion. Now we continue to drive this Myoko back here. The Boise that was over here, he's kind of fleeing off towards the northwest, basically out of our firing range at this point. So we have options. What these 2 ships are doing, they're kiting, and they're basically, on paper, whether the players kiting understand the tactic or not, one of the objectives when you're kiting is to draw enemy players away from the significant events of the battle. First off, the first opportunity for me to flub that would have been to pursue the Myoko northward and not cap C. And now I can continue to chase them north and get away from the area of the battle that really counts. The western area is what is going to decide this game. So I'm going to just take a second here. If I can deal some damage, get rid of them, I'm going to take that opportunity. But when we poke around here, we don't spot him, and he seems like we're out of his detection range, he's out of my detection range. We're going to leave him alone until he pops back up. We're going to try and push forward, get some flanking fire onto that western section of the map here. So I think there's 2 more stats I want to mention. Baltimore's HP 42,400 on my builds compared to 37,900 on this one. So fairly significant difference on health, and the heal is about 30 points better per second on the Baltimore. I think that's reflective of the fact that it has a higher starting HP pool, would be my guess, but just 2 more things to be aware of. So the Baltimore on the whole is the tankier of the 2 ships, but the Wichita more mobile, more able to kind of actively dodge and protect itself that way. So I like the Wichita in terms of feel. I like the Baltimore more in terms of guns, but they both play a similar role, especially domination mode, where you're going to be trying to pressure those caps, affect the destroyers with your radar, get rid of them, and then play basically island to island like we've been trying to demonstrate in this game. Anyway, Colorado pops up here. Now we still have the Myoko to the north, but we have the opportunity to hit this Colorado and potentially take him out. And you can see the power of the HE shells here. These are fairly solid, and again, you can boost the HE fire chance more than I do on my builds here. So you can get it up to a significant amount, but even just hitting them with the HE and relying on the damage, we were able to get him down here. And here we're going to see a few salvos. When you get these duels at long range and you have an opportunity to see those shells coming in, see the speed, see the dancing ability of the ship, and they're going to have a hard time hitting us reliably at this sort of distance. So I do, I kind of dig the Japanese cruisers, the French cruisers, because of their ability to dance. American cruisers, depending on how you set them up exactly, they have that or they don't. But this one, how I have it set up, moves around very well. So, I definitely dig it in terms of that. I haven't had any real massive barn burners yet, up in like the 150 range or anything like that yet. Only played about 10 games. This is an early impressions video, of course. I had a higher damage game. I think it was like 110, 115, something like that, on the map Haven. I've shown a lot of cruiser games on Haven, and it's kind of, I wanted to highlight one that's kind of like a quote-unquote island hopping type of game. But Haven, assuming you're thinking about it at all, it's very, very, very easy to utilize the islands as a cruiser on that. That's kind of the ultimate cruiser map in the game, at least thus far, in my opinion, just because you can constantly use cover and find those little areas to shoot over. This one, though, we're just kind of going island to island, and I think this is kind of the mentality you should try and have whenever the maps support this sort of play. For really any of these cruisers of the American line, both heavy and light cruisers tend to play very well along the islands like this. Here's another little outcropping right in front of us that we were talking about early in the video. We could point directly at that little beach that's sticking out there if we needed to. I'm not as worried about protecting ourselves at this point. We're trying to keep all three guns in play to the best of our ability just to get a little bit more damage at the end here. But we could just jam right up there, nose in, fire those front two guns, and potentially the Colorado would be able to overmatch us. But versus any cruiser, they're not going to be able to get AP shells into that, or even lower caliber battleships would struggle to deal significant damage to us in that position. So again, that's another example of those little low-level outcroppings that I was referencing, that just try and play around with those and incorporate them into your cruiser play whenever playing the island hopping style here. Anyway, my impressions of the Wichita, it's not massively overpowered like the previous campaign ship, which is a little ridiculous. I think it's a strong ship. I think cruiser players are going to enjoy it. If you're not really into cruisers and you're thinking maybe should I ever skip a campaign, you could consider skipping this one. I mean, it's not my all-time favorite ship, but I do enjoy playing it, and I think the more I play around with it, the more I'm going to enjoy it as I get more and more accustomed to the unique shells. So anyway, that's a look at the Wichita, guys. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Stay tuned for the giveaways and the events. Questions, comments, leave them below. I'd love to hear from you guys, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.